Good evening and welcome back to Prime of Midlife. It is Wednesday evening and we've had a busy day at work, and this evening we are talking about houses, homes, where we're going to live in the future. Looking at the news in the UK, there is the drop in housing prices. It's the lowest it's been in a decade, or the biggest drop in a decade. So house prices are going down. However, there are the reports from the Bank of England governor who says that he thinks inflation or interest rates may have peaked. So house prices may get a bit better as more people get mortgages if the interest rates keep coming down. However, Persimmon Homes have said they're looking at a 40% reduction in the homes that they're going to be building in the future due to the costs, due to planning regulations, things like that. And there's also been, I think there was a High Court appeal or something where houses that were going to get built in specific areas, that is now not happening. I think it was in Parkland or something. And the court have said no, these houses are no longer allowed. So there seems to be this whole perfect storm of problems with accommodation in the UK because private rentals are really struggling. Prices have gone up. There's just not enough to go round. People have now, there was an article in one of the newspapers that I read talking about house sharing. And the house sharing website that sort of gets people in contact with each other, they've said that the inquiries have gone up quite a bit. And what happens with that is when someone who is older with spare rooms advertises for a house share, and the person comes in, normally a younger person, and they help out for say 10 hours a week doing housework and 5 hours a week with companionship, and they're there just, to help out with the bigger house and things like that. So that is seemingly starting to take off. There's also now, I have noticed, it's what I called the elder suite. And it can go either way. It's when you get a spare room in your home. And it would be for, say, when mum and dad still had their house, if I moved in or if Kat came to stay with them, and instead of her just having a bedroom, what they would do is they would make it into a bed sit. So it would have its own tiny kitchen, its own tiny shower room, and probably one of those pull down off the wall beds. So it would be a bed sitting room. A lot of people are starting to look at that as well, to be able to have maybe their older children staying, but having their own space, or having elderly parents coming to stay with them, but again, having their own space so that they're not always on top of each other. But definitely there looks to be problems in the future with where people are going to stay. One of the other articles I read was about the landlords, about if you are to get a rent rebate from when you leave a property because they didn't do the repairs or something, who is the person that you've got to get this rent rebate from? And they've said it's your landlord, not necessarily the owner of the home, because what some people do is they rent to rent. Now, I had never heard of this, so I just thought I'd tell you. Renting to rent is where someone would get, like, again, mum and dad's house. Now, mum and dad's house had 3 bedrooms. The sitting room, the kitchen was huge, and a utility room and a conservatory. And what someone would do is they would rent that house, but they would have people in all the rooms. So the sitting room would be one room, the 3 bedrooms would be other rooms, the utility room would be another room, and everything would be in the kitchen. They would share a kitchen. And so someone would get individual rent from all these rooms. So they're renting the whole property, but then what they do is they rent out each room individually. So if you had to get a rent rebate, it's actually the person who rented the whole house that you would have to try and fight for the rebate, because they're your landlord. It's not the person that owns the house. And that is seemingly causing quite a few problems because there's many what they call ghost landlords. So due to the lack of what I call social housing, because I'm quite sure you know the difference between social housing and affordable housing. Affordable housing, the last time I looked, was something like 20% below market rate. So that is not exactly affordable to an awful lot of people. Social housing obviously is housing owned by the local authority. The lack of social housing and the almost monopoly now of housing being private is causing some huge problems, and especially with interest rates going as high. So it's definitely something that I think we should think of. If you are looking at, if you have older parents, if you have younger kids that are going to have to look to staying with you, or maybe if you want to keep staying in your bigger house, maybe put one of those elder suites in, and you could have someone renting it out as a bed sit, whether it's your kid, whether it's your parent, things like that. I think it's something not so much for us of a certain age, but for those a bit younger than us who have got families up and coming, and families who can't afford to buy their own property and are really struggling to rent. How many of us thought when we were younger, I don't want to rent because I'm paying all that money and I'm getting nothing out of it at the end. I really want to own my own property. And then eventually, once you've paid the mortgage, you're not paying rent anymore. So you know that that's going to come out your budget when you're older. A lot of our young people are not going to be able to do that. So, we possibly need to look at things like that. There's some people who are older who it would be better for them if they're needing help with doing daily things, that maybe they come and stay with their families. So yeah, it's just this whole thing that's going round in my head just now. That house builders are saying, due to the zero carbon contract requirements, due to the way the prices are, the way the planning regulations are, they are looking to reduce how many houses they're building. And that, I think, is going to be a problem, especially when the local authorities do not have the money to build social housing. So yeah, that's my thought for the day. So I'm now going to go and have a cup of tea as usual, and I will catch you later.